Good morning and congratulations. We've all made it to Friday, and what a beautiful one it is. Fall is definitely here in the Tennessee Valley, and I think we're all going to be smiling because of it. We are so happy this morning to get to kick off the show. Our first guest is Jenny Yielding, who I think would first say she's a mom. So all you moms and dads out there, pay close attention. But she's a mom. Her son Satchel is a 8th grader, but he has epilepsy. So you are here this morning on behalf of the Epilepsy Foundation of Southeast Tennessee, but talking about what has become very impactful in your family's life, and that's this teacher training that y'all are offering. Do I have that right?
School training, school safety training.
So I think what I feel is probably indicative of what a lot of people feel, and that is that we don't understand epilepsy, and so we don't really know how to have an easy conversation with someone because we think it's going to be this obvious seizure maybe that can occur from nowhere, but the truth is it doesn't always even look like a seizure. Correct. Is that right?
Oftentimes it does not.
So when you were talking about these trainings, these school trainings, who's getting the training?
Well, the Epilepsy Foundation, Matthew will go out and do training for the teachers. Where my child goes to school now, they're fantastic about it. So they'll do a training with the teachers at the start of the year. You know, my son Satchel's seizure meds, his emergency meds are with the nurse. So everybody knowing how that goes and what to do if he has a seizure. And then the kids, they do a training for whatever grade he's in. And it's amazing how many people are affected by epilepsy and how many have families. Like over half the kids raise their hand, but it's something nobody really talks about as much. So if the kids get trained, you know, they'll do the teacher training and then the training for his peers. So it's not stigmatized. You know?
So you were telling me off camera, you made a comment about kids are curious. They are. That's why they go to school, because they can absorb all this education that they're getting at that young age. But kids nowadays don't see differences like they used to. So you look like you're tearing up. Are you tearing up?
It's a long journey for everybody. And we have people, like my kids' seizures right now are pretty well under control, but I have so many mama friends who their kids aren't. And if you're not involved in it, you know, it's like, oh, it doesn't concern me, but it does, and it's community. And, you know, our community is really good about knowing with Satchel's when he had a seizure because of the school trainings. Their kids would come home and tell the parents, and then the parents would text me and say, oh my gosh.
Okay, we're going to kind of jump all around like we're having a cup of coffee, I guess, this morning. But let's talk first a minute about this training, because what you're wanting to know, and you're kind of getting out ahead of the month of November, which is Epilepsy Awareness Month. There's no timeline really here. It's just if you're watching this morning and you're in a school setting, public or private, what Jenny's wanting you to know is, please, we'll give you Matthew's email and consider having him come out and give you this training and giving your students this training, because Satchel was not diagnosed until he was 6 years old. That's when his developed, right? So you never know when a child in your midst is going to get the diagnosis.
Right. And he couldn't make it a full day of school. We had to check him out every day at 1, but we didn't know why. He'd be laying on the table. He'd be.
What do you mean by that? Like sleeping? Like
because they get what they call post-ictal after a seizure. You know, they're exhausted, and cognitively, we didn't know he was having them at night. So he was having them at night, and then the next day he just looked a mess. And so it took us a while, and the teacher didn't know why. He couldn't sit up sometimes, and some days he looked great. Some days he'd be drooling a little, and some days he looked fantastic. So.
Okay, to that point, think about this from the power of a teacher. You talk about like frontline heroes. Sometimes the teacher can be that. If he's having these at night and you don't know, but the teacher doesn't know what she or he is seeing in the course of the day, they can't report back to you.
Right. And we had a phenomenal teacher in kindergarten, Miss Love, and she advocated for him, kept saying, no, this is not normal, but we couldn't figure it out at the time. And then when he got his diagnosis about 6 months later, all the pieces fell into place. It just made sense.
Satchel's 14 now. Did you tell me that it was fairly recently that he had a seizure, a pretty decent sized one at school, but his friends knew what to do?
Yes, it was a year and a half ago. Thank
Okay.
goodness we've been controlled, but he had a big seizure at school, and he actually fell on the little girl next to him. He started to fall, and she knew, and caught him and lowered him to the ground. And the kids started moving the desk and the chairs, and the teachers knew what to do. The kids were calm. They knew that, before they're like, I just thought he was going to die, or they're like, how do I help him? They want to help. Kids want to help, but you can't really do much except for clear the surroundings, turn them on their side,
Right.
time the seizure. So they all knew what to do, and it was amazing.
And he emerged from it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
feeling like they were on his side,
Totally,
not
yes.
that he was different.
Yes, and CCS has been phenomenal about that. That's where we are now. And
Go ahead and say it. Chattanooga
it's been-
Christian is right.
Yeah, they've been great, and they have been totally proactive in getting all the education done. So,
I have about a minute left. Is this a national thing, or is this something that y'all created?
well, there's 18 states, I think it is now. I've been watching that have laws that require seizure education in the schools, just as one of the topics. And I think, it's just coming around the country finally, because before it was just something people didn't talk about. And it's so prevalent,
What's the
So
phrase?
prevalent.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yes, exactly.
So think about, we don't know this, but doesn't mean we can't learn
And
it.
it's 1 in 25 kids. I mean, it's.
1 in 25. Will you hug your one when you pick
I
him
will.
up today?
He's great.
I
Yes.
bet you will. Okay, so you never know when the knowledge can come in to not only save a life, but certainly save the emotions and the tender heart of these children. So if you will email Matthew, his email is mgidney@epilepsy-setn.org. You also can call 380-8545. If you're in any type of education system, please consider having him come out. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much.
Do you think they need to bring them to us on like a fancy tray, like